This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, hi, everybody. It's Tuesday afternoon, so it's the Technology and Security Management Happy Hour. We're glad to have you all here. We should have a really great talk. We've got Chris Covino, who you'll hear about later, but let's start with, why we're all here. One of my favorite recent cartoons. For health and safety reasons, we'll be transaction. Uh, Hold on, I'm having technical problems. Please, I gotta move something.
This conference will now be recorded.
So here we are back again, having, I think, solved the technical problem. I'm not used to being on one screen. My wife and I are up here in Montecito today, so I'm broadcasting from a hotel room, so to speak. But one of the reasons we're here, I mean, it's a cartoon, but it's true. It's of about what's going on. And then the other reason you're here, if you're on video, you see Chris Covino, who's the policy director for cybersecurity, part of the mayor's office of public safety. And Chris will be speaking to us in just a couple of minutes. So Secure the Village, who we are, what we're about, if you are new to us, we're a community-based response to the cybercrime and privacy crisis, with the goal of turning people and organizations into cyber guardians. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we just have to acknowledge. I'm so grateful to our platinum sponsor, Miller Kaplan, for giving us the necessary money to go off and implement the kind of mission that we want to. Also want to introduce to you Di Kriebel. You see Di on video, who's the head of DKKD staffing. She's the co-host with me of these events. And Di, you want to say a couple of words?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I had a little trouble getting the link, so thank you, Chris, for sending it in. If not everybody's been on the call before, I'm not sure if you know that I've worked for Stan for about 20 years. And about 10 years ago, I actually started working with Miller Kaplan. And what a coincidence that about 6 months ago, I think it is now, that Miller Kaplan acquired Stan's company. So it came full circle. I've been working in the security sector with his prior organization, which was Citadel, and now Secure the Village and Miller Kaplan. And if everybody else here on the call knows me, I've been working in the industry for 20 years, placing IT people in a strong focus in the security sector. And met Chris at a cybersecurity summit, and he had everybody's ears in the room. Definitely, everybody was very excited to hear what LA City had to share, and it's evolved since then. So we're excited to have you here today, Chris. So thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right on, Di. Very excited to have Chris. Yeah, I met Chris, good God, I guess it goes back probably a couple of years ago. We've been collaborating on, this whole question of how do we connect the dots in cybersecurity, and connect them, in ways that work. So we're going to have Chris talk a bit about what LA CyberLab is all about, and kind of the things they do and the opportunities they have. But then what I'd like to do, so be thinking about this as you're listening to Chris. I mean, we got a lot of technical people here, and non-technical as well. And it's the question is how, I mean, Chris is just, the LA CyberLab is just this incredible resource. How do we use it more effectively? How can we, knowing what they are, what they're about, how do we connect the dots? How do we help the information that Chris is able to provide to people? How do we help get that into the community, into particularly the technical community? Because so much of what Chris is doing is technical on that side. So Chris, with that, I'm going to make you the presenter, turn it over to you, and take it away. Thank you.
Cool. Can you guys hear me? Can you see my screen? It should be a PowerPoint.
Very good.
Or you guys, you look at yourselves. So you guys can see all that?
Yes.
Real good.
Okay. So just before I even get started on this, Stan mentioned, where the city's looking for ways to kind of help small businesses, medium businesses. But even take another step back, my background isn't a technical background. I'm a policy person doing cyber, not a cyber person doing policy. So there's not a lot of people doing that. I assume that you're all very technical, all have lots of experience. You're all well beyond more than what I know. So, but the way that in the future is going is you kind of need regular government, policy people to start thinking of cybersecurity as a comprehensive issue. As Stan frames it very well, like it takes a community to solve this issue. So that's kind of where I come in. I look at it very comprehensively. I rely very much on technical people to tell me what they think about things, the challenges they face, and how do we bridge that gap? Because as you're all aware, convincing a non-technical executive is half the battle. Like, you might have the best cybersecurity plan in the world, but if you can't fund it or if no one takes it seriously, you're going to have a big issue. So, and part of this, I think Stan kind of alluded to, I really do want to hear from you guys. I'm going to present on, again, what we're doing and, where we want to go, but I also want to know, what as a small, medium, large business, as someone's doing, security all the time, what do you see on the ground? How could, government help? Both, local government, state government, federal government. I constantly have conversations with everyone from state to federal, and they're always looking for input. From just the local government perspective, like, how do we protect the networks of LA? But, going even further, how do we protect, private sector? So with that, I'm gonna I'll talk about CyberLab a little. You guys are already aware of kind of why cybersecurity is important. Hold on, sorry. Can you only see the presentation, or I keep clicking on the? Okay. There's obviously critical infrastructure challenges. I know this is probably beyond the scope of what we want to talk about today, but cyber is really being intertwined within everything in society. So we hear a lot about the disinformation stuff. I think you shouldn't separate, these cyber hacking attempts from, the disinformation thing, because they're all kind of molding together. So it's really like, technology is just weaving into society more. So cyber security is going to be even more important as we go forward. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but, I say these things because when you talk to your average person, they need to start understanding how important this is for the future. And when I was in policy school, it wasn't for cyber, but I saw like the writing on the wall that this is something that it's really important moving forward. So this is just a random chart I love to show people. Maybe you can read it, maybe you can't, but it's the World Economic Forum. This is global risk. This is pre-COVID, by the way. I want to say that a lot of these slides are pre-COVID, but it ranks cyber attacks as one of the most likely issues, and there's infectious disease, if you're wondering. And then we obviously see the ransomware epidemic for cities, and again, you're all probably aware of this. This slide is also older. This was probably this was April. So local government's being attacked a lot, and this is very impactful because local government provides direct services to people, whether it be police, fire, EMS. But those other services, like if you want to buy a home, you need to register with the clerk, or the voting, and like everything. So local government is that kind of contact point with most citizens. The exception probably being the mail, which is obviously in the news right now, and then state government is like the DMV. But everything you mostly do on a daily basis, from getting a parking ticket, calling for an ambulance, just kind of getting a parking sticker, it's all local government. So it's really important that local government is kind of secure going forward. So that's kind of one of my goals from the local government standpoint. This again is a pre-COVID slide. I bet this will accelerate even more, but the risk surface, we're getting all these IoT devices, and it's doing two things. We're expanding the risk surface, and we're increasing the dependency. And this is just the example I used of critical infrastructure sectors, utilities. You're getting billions of units of IoT, government, physical security. We're really dependent on technology, and we really need to take security seriously. And again, it needs to be a comprehensive picture. Everyone needs to look at security as it's something that they need to worry about. It's not just for you guys, IT experts. you're the leaders, you're the subject matter experts, but you can only take it so far. We really need, again, all of society to kind of move forward on this. Cybercrime, we all know that's a huge issue. Billions of dollars, that's growing extremely rapidly. I like to say, we're in like year zero of cybercrime, right? So maybe 30 years ago, these numbers were probably non-existent. You probably like, who was doing cybercrime, and now it's just exponentially growing. And the risk to the criminals of doing this is so much lower than doing some of the normal stuff they might do, drug trafficking, human trafficking, etc. You get caught doing that, you're going to get in a lot more trouble. But it's very easy to sit at your computer at home and do ransomware attacks or send phishing emails and scam emails. But that being said, a lot of them will use this revenue to do more drug trafficking, human trafficking, all that. So it's one big cycle. And I don't know enough about it, but I've heard there's the complexity of the kind of underground cybercrime economy is it's vast.
Yeah.
So now kind of just getting to from the City of LA, what's our kind of cyber strategic initiatives? And I really want to separate this from your normal, kind of NIST-inspired cybersecurity plan. Like I'm not a CISO. We have a CISO. I'm more focused on the bigger picture. So we're focused on kind of three different elements. The first one is the most obvious one, where I just kind of alluded to, is we want to secure city systems. But we want to do this to ensure service delivery. Like, that is the most important thing. We're not a Best Buy trying to sell you computers. So if they all get ransomware, we can't sell them. It's not that. We're using these computers to deliver city services, street cleaning, police, fire, whatever. So it's really important that, we have that holistic approach as a city. If a system goes down, we're able to, be resilient. We have paper backups, like all those kind of things you would for a normal business that you guys are all well aware of. It stands true here too. So I really stress that ensure service delivery part, because again, securing city systems is kind of the means to an end, because what we really want to do is service delivery. And to do that, we have, various things. We have coordination plans. We have kind of an intergovernmental committee within the city. And then we have an integrated security operations center, which is the basis for kind of CyberLab's information sharing, which I'll kind of get into. And the second one is kind of, why I'm here right now. I want to stress, we want to provide services to help residents of business. I call it like cybersecurity as a public service type model. We're doing, police work, we're doing fire, we're trying to protect people in those ways. Public health is trying to protect people. That's obviously really important right now. But we also need to start thinking about how to protect people with cybersecurity, because the risk is just running so much fast. Risk and threat are just running so far ahead of what government is used to right now, that we really need to kind of think, innovatively about that. And that's where Los Angeles CyberLab, came to be. And the third kind of an objective is, we want to lead national and regional coordination. One of the big things CyberLab is really key to that is threat information sharing. So we work with a lot of big cities, a lot of regional cities around here to kind of share best practices, just kind of work together. And again, like CyberLab is kind of key to that. And it's especially important for LA. It's especially more important for businesses, because if you think about it, if you, LA is such a weird looking city. We literally have cities within LA, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, for example. But then we border, so many cities. The county is 88 cities. So if something happens in Pasadena or Huntington Park or, Torrance, it's got to have an effect on the city in Los Angeles. If all the traffic lights in Beverly Hills went down, traffic around in LA proper is going to be a bad day. So it's really important that we do that. And then the business thing too, if a business in Beverly Hills or a business in Pasadena or a business in Huntington Park or business, in Watts, wherever is protected, residents from the city of LA live and work, or residents live in the city of LA and they might go to work in another city. So protecting their business in the other city is really important, and vice versa. They might, live in a different city, but then they might go to work in LA. So we're really just one very big integrated region. So it's really important for us here not just to focus on the city, not just focus on city residents and city businesses, but really kind of look at the big picture, because we're all in this together, right? And the marginal cost of helping each other, for example, sharing threat information, is very low. It's not like I have to send someone out to, some other city like Pasadena and, ask for help. It's as easy as an email, or we have like a threat intelligence sharing platform we work with to kind of share information. So, it's cost effective, right? And if anyone has any questions at any point, just speak up, and I am happy to answer them. And obviously, we'll save time for it later.
Sure.
We can ignore that for now. So just kind of briefly going over the city, this is kind of key. We have our Integrated Security Operations Center. So this is, a few years ago, we have these kind of the main city departments, and then we have the 3 proprietary departments. So this is Water and Power, LAX, and the Port. And they're kind of on their own. They have their own SOCs. But with this Integrated Security Operations model, we made it so they funnel into what we call the IceStock, which is led by our Information Technology Agency. So any threat that LADWP sees, or the airport or the port, will send it to the IceStock. And then the IceStock is collecting data from all the departments, such as police, fire, building inspection, like every department. So we're kind of all amassing this information in one spot. And just example, so at the IceStock, they log over 1 billion events. We block about 2 million unauthorized access attempts. And then we're correlating, these unauthorized access attempts with, existing threat data. And we're saying, like, so DHS saw this IP as bad. Our partner over here saw this IP as bad. We saw this IP, was doing something suspicious. So now it's kind of that triple kind of check confirm, and we kind of share that to a larger platform, or we send it out daily via CyberLab to, going ahead here. We send it out daily to our CyberLab mailing list, so people like you can get those indicators. So I give that background around the city, obviously, because I want you guys to know, but I give the background specifically about the IceStock because that's one of the ways. CyberLab is the way for us to share this information and kind of share security best practices that the city has through CyberLab. So just some real quick background. I'm sure a lot of you know about CyberLab, but it was started as a kind of a public-private partnership by the mayor, I think back in 2017. And it was really focused on how do we help small businesses, medium businesses, and large businesses. How do we get the information that the IceStock is coming up with every day? How do we really get that to businesses and people? Because it just makes sense to kind of help, right? So in I think 2018, we were given a grant by DHS. CyberLab was about $3 million, and part of that was to build an threat intelligence sharing platform. And that's something that, it's geared towards, bigger businesses, cities with advanced security teams, all that. But we also do daily threat reports, and we try to do a lot of workshops and events. The daily threat report, some of you might already be signed up for that, but that's kind of kind of what's going on in the security world. Just kind of an update. And then we do a daily IOC thread where, like I said, whatever the IceStock finds that day for bad IPs, hashes, whatever, we'll send that out via email so people can kind of see what we're seeing. And the goal is, as we get more partners in the threat intelligence sharing platform, like the big guys that can really help and really have good threat intelligence, analysis programs, they share into our threat intelligence sharing platform. And then, we share out via the IOCs to the wider community. We're still working on it. It's still, getting people involved. There's a risk aversion, obviously, from cities, but in the private partners, but I think it is the future and the future way to go. So again, as you're all experts and you're all people who are trying to help, I'd love to hear, your input on that. Yeah. And then CyberLab also supports a lot of this, wider regional stuff. We have a regional cyber coordination group with a lot of local governments here. We have kind of a joint cyber task force with, Homeland Security helps us there, the local fusion center. And then it's helping us with kind of national threat sharing with other big cities. So like I said, we have threat intelligence sharing platform. We have a mobile application, which we're trying to improve on. And then again, workshops and events. We haven't been able to do as many workshops and events since COVID started because just priorities, but we're going to try to get back into that in the fall. And that's another thing. If you guys have, thoughts on what you would like to see for workshops, events, sometimes we do training, sometimes we've done a lot of co-hosted things with Stan. We're really happy to kind of, look at, you know, what you guys are interested in.
Mhm.
And then I'll touch on the threat intelligence sharing platform. We use TrueStar as it. So again, it's automated threat sharing. It allows people to just kind of, you know, send their daily IOCs, go from there. And again, we really think it's the future because we kind of need that kind of live action threat sharing, right? You're able to integrate with security tools. The issue again is, you know, technologically, a lot of people don't have those mature kind of threat sharing, you know, analysts or kind of programs, right? So they don't have time to kind of sort through all their firewall logs, or you don't have the money to have an automated program to kind of send, you know, the bad stuff they're seeing. So we're seeing a lot of that. Like, just people aren't quite there yet technologically. And then again, like I said, there's some natural risk aversion. Anytime you say data sharing, people start to freak out, especially if you're talking to non-technical people. The lawyers will immediately jump and be like, whoa, data sharing? I don't know about that. So I talked about, we work with the local fusion center, CyberLab in the city. If you sign up for the daily CyberLab kind of mailing list, you will get once in a while these joint advisories we do. They're just a little more in depth on kind of the daily newsletter, where we just kind of highlight a few really important articles. And again, we work with our kind of joint regional intelligence center to do that. And we're looking for closer integration kind of long term. Obviously separate some aspects because CyberLab is a little more business facing. The JRIC, the Joint Regional Intelligence Center, is a little more focused on, you know, government partners, but then, you know, the city cares about both. And then the other thing we do a lot of, we're working with a lot of big city CISOs. So I have a monthly call with CISOs from Chicago, San Francisco, Boston, San Antonio, Dallas, and Detroit, and a few others. And we just talk about ways, you know, sharing threat information, just kind of working together to help other cities. So that's good, again, for, you know, CyberLab, where we're using CyberLab's platform. And if we can get a big city like San Francisco or Chicago sharing information into our platform, then we can kind of spread that information out locally to businesses. So if Chicago sees a phishing email attempt, then we know about it, and then we can tell, you know, your companies about it, either through a bulletin or through, you know, more automated sharing. So that, I talked quick. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
So you can see me, and I'll kind of pause and let you soak that up.
That was great, Chris. Thanks so much for that overview. I mean, one of the things that I find so kind of valuable about what you're doing is this opportunity to share threat intelligence. I mean, I get your reports daily, and they're really, I mean, there's a ton of value in there, and it's the whole concept of the village, if you will, that the more we share this information, the more ahead of the game we are that way. And I know we talked about this information being available to residents, businesses here in the city. What do people do to if you want to, if somebody wants, you know, like, you know, Michael or Alan or anybody wants to sign up to get this, what do they do?
Dude, I think you go to cyberlab.com, cyberlab.org. I'll send the link in the chat. You sign up and
yeah.
Yeah, there was something else that was sent out when we originally signed up. I don't think it was just as cyberlab.org.
Yeah. Well, there's that. I use your app. One of the things about it, if for the rest of you, when I get something that really looks like some serious spam, you know, like might be fraudulent, not just the random flotsam and jetsam that kind of comes by, but the serious stuff, I type GoFish and my browser, my Outlook brings up GoFish at whatever, lacl.org or lacyberlab.org, and it sends off to Chris. And so you get it and you can correlate it with other information, right?
Yeah, So that threat intelligence sharing platform I talked about, when you send an email there, it will check against what's in that platform and see if there's any kind of issues. And we're actually working on improving that. So we actually, it was a team of students from MIT do like a summer project for us on this, and they presented on improving that app by adding feedback and actually looking for text in there, like spam text. So right now it only checks kind of indicators. It doesn't check what the text is. So someone could write a very obvious, phishing email, and maybe not even put in like a IOC, right? But have you like, oh, reply to this or go here or whatever. So this uses, I think, Spam Assassin. This will use Spam Assassin to kind of look through the actual text of the email, and then it will give people recommendations based on the text. So they'll be like, and they'll tell you why it was flagged. So they'll flag an email with you, and they'll say, this email was flagged because there's a lot of spelling errors, or there was a sense of urgency. I think it uses Google's like 6 criteria for finding a spam email. So that's a feature we're looking to add probably in the fall or even winter. But again, it makes it a little more usable, and the app is good for small businesses, but it's also good for people like my mom, right? Where I'm not always there to be like, this is a phishing email or this is an issue. It allows someone like her to kind of forward it and actually get real feedback, because it might be obvious to all us that something is a phishing email. That's why we forward it, but teaching other people is kind of the key, and that goes back to that kind of second strategic initiative, right? Where it's really important. How do we kind of reach out to the public? Reaching out to the technical experts like yourselves is really important, but how do I reach, the people who don't care, who don't go to Secure the Village, events? And I think that's kind of the point of Secure the Village. So how do you kind of reach that wider audience? Because it's going to take a village, right? So.
Yeah. No, that's so true. By the way, on that point, the slide where the mayor talks about taking lots of communities working together, you might suggest that much simpler than the way you said it is simply to say it takes a village. It takes all the villages working together to secure the village.
Yeah.
Good plug,
Right.
good plug,
That's actually
Stan.
a good point.
There you go.
That's a good
plug,
point.
Stan. Hey, Chris, can you put that in the chat, the link? Because cyberlab.org is not.
Yeah. I know you had a lot of questions. Your brain.
I had a few of them. Here, let me pull them up real quick.
Yeah.
Or Stan, you want to ask them, or you want me to go ahead and ask them?
Go for it.
Okay. So I guess one of the things was I just mentioned that you said your slides have changed since because they were pre-COVID. Is it actually hard to keep up with how much everything's changing over the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general lessons are kind of still true, right? We're moving like society. And again, I'm more of a big picture person, less technical, right? But as a society, we're moving more towards a reliance on technology, and it's increasing the risk service. And COVID just accelerated that rapidly. So, for example, one of the things we're looking at the City and CyberLab is, there's communities that don't have access to a lot of digital technology, and the city is moving towards more digital services now. They're using this event to move towards more digital services. But if people don't have computers, how are we going to help them? So you need to teach them digital. You need to give them access. You need to build infrastructure. LA is very good about, having good, internet infrastructure. Access is more of a problem. Like someone needs a computer, that costs money. They need to get, pay for a wireless router and fiber and all that. That costs money.
Right.
And then there's the digital literacy part. So one of the things that we really want to do is build in cybersecurity with digital literacy. It shouldn't be one or the other. I shouldn't learn how to use a computer, then learn security. I should learn them as the same, two sides of the same coin. So that's a real important initiative that I'm trying to push. We're probably going to work with a group of students again at USC to kind of like come up with some plans for us. And, and that's something I think, Stan, that we should really talk about, or whoever else, how do we push digital literacy out there, but how do we bake in security? It shouldn't be an after thing. You don't learn to drive and then learn how to drive safely. It's all the same thing, right? So kind of same concept. I don't know if that, I kind of digressed on your question there, but
that's exactly what I was leaning towards as well. And Stan and I have been talking as well with some of the other partners about, how do we educate people better on the security aspect. And that's, I guess that's one of my other questions too, is, is CyberLab seeing an increase in breaches, now that people are working from home? Are you getting more reports from the employers and the companies that you get the reports from when they get breaches?
I mean, we're definitely seeing a kind of an uptick. The city itself is seeing an uptick. But again, that's kind of one of the things that we want to improve on. We want more people to try to report to CyberLab, and that's, we have obviously the app, and we have the threat training platform, but we're trying to figure out better ways for like the average business person to, submit things. And I'm kind of skating a question with criticism of CyberLab here, but it's important. Like there's a inertia to sharing, right? You see something bad, you have to actually decide to share it. And we're trying to figure out ways to kind of improve that, to make it more likely that someone wants to share something bad. We need to make it easy for them. And even like looking at the app again, right now you have to forward via an email address, and we're looking for better ways to integrate that. So going back to your question though, you are seeing across the board, like scams have been huge. So we're trying to alert the public to more generally to like small business scams, just public scams. There was one in particular that we actually used CyberLab as a vehicle to kind of like send out the messages from CISA, was the Small Business Administration scam on the Paycheck Protection Program, I think. So someone was spoofing email addresses. And funny enough, we actually, and I don't know if this was the reason that CISA found out about it, but with our national, you'll kind of see the whole system working together here. We had an analyst in Seattle who had met through, CyberLab and doing our regional and national coordination stuff, send us an email about the small business spoofing that the city of Seattle was getting. So I sent that to CISA, and then a few weeks later, CISA comes out with an alert, and I took that alert and I sent it out via CyberLab. So you're seeing really like everyone kind of working together and sharing information. It really ends up being helpful, because I was able to CISA was able to kind of coordinate and be like, this is an actual issue, we're going to take care of it, working with SBA, but we also need to alert people. So they come up with the alert and then we send it out. So again, I don't know if what Seattle sent to me, which I sent to CISA, I don't know if that was the reason why they did the alert. It probably helped, but it kind of shows you again, sharing ends up helping everyone, right?
Well, you don't know unless somebody shares it with you, or you don't know there's an issue unless you or you see the commonality and patterns, right? I mean, I know I shared some, and I got to figure out how to scrub some, confidential information out of it, but just to be able to show you the thread, and maybe what happened. And Stan and I have even worked through some other ones, tried to figure it out. I've even had, the fact that I employ so many people and I get contacts from all over the world all the time. I even had recently a phone hack, I guess, that somebody used my phone number somehow to call somebody else. Yeah, I'd love to figure out how that happened. The person called me back, said I'm a 75-year-old non-technical person. I don't even have a cell phone, because I asked him, I said, I didn't call you. I said, I even look, I didn't even have my phone with me. I'd walked away from it. I said, can you send me a screenshot? He says, it's not a cell phone, it's my home phone. But he saw my number on there. And how do you track something like that down? Somehow my phone number was used and my name showed up on the person's telephone log. And then how do you share something like that? Because I know we can forward emails to CyberLab, when we see something suspicious or maybe a common pattern. But how do we take it even further, like something like that, like a phone call attack?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And it kind of, the point, you raise a good point that the complexity of these attacks is rising, right? And they're getting a little weirder, and it's more hard to distinguish between, 20 years ago, would you say a phone is a phone attack is a cyber attack? And today I would say, it probably was. There's probably a cyber component to it. 20 years ago, maybe it wasn't, right?
Right.
So, everything's kind of getting more complex, and, it goes back to kind of, you need people to kind of understand that anything is fair game now. You probably didn't think that was going to be an issue, right? Maybe a month ago or a year ago, right? And now you're like, well, it's a whole new area, or maybe an old area coming back. But either way, it's important to kind of educate the general public. But in terms of reporting that one, I'm not sure what the best thing would be to do. That one's a difficult one, and because
Kind of
the
digress.
CyberLab infrastructure isn't quite there. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. It just made me think
Is
about
that
it.
something you could send to IC3, or you just go to
Yeah,
IC3?
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking IC3 thing. If it's an actual crime, my suggestion is definitely report it to the FBI.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until we started talking about it, but you know,
If
and
it's
we all
something
get
suspicious that you, if it's something suspicious that you think other people should know about, for example, if one of you got an email from some spoofed SBA, Small Business Administration account, that's something that you want others to know about, and that's where CyberLab can come in and kind of share that.
Yeah, that's good.
And it has to be easy, because we're not going to take the time, right, to share it if it's not an easy process.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of friction we need to overcome.
Yeah.
I think Steve wants to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I thank you, Stan. My thing is training the public and providing a guide for residents. And I see it in multiple levels. At the kind of the top of the pyramid is my top 10. So it's 10 things, 10 do's and don'ts that, starting with two-factor authentication and items like that. And then I have a list of 54 do's and don'ts that are downloadable from my website. And then we have Stan and I work together on a 2-hour full class with an exam built in. And beyond that is my book called Cyber Guardian. So there's levels of, and what I'd like to see promoted is at a minimum the top 10 to the public. So that people, and then if they want to go further, they want to, because there's many other important items that are left out, point them to the 54 or whatever number that'll eventually wind up. So what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
No, I'd agree. Like a top 10. One of the things we're trying to work on with CyberLab is kind of like a 2-page instant response checklist. Like this is one of the biggest problems that small businesses and even people don't have. They don't have like a plan. And an instant response plan doesn't have to be that complex. It's just like who to call, do you have your backup ready, all that stuff. So these simple checklists I think are extremely important. The problem I think is less, like a lot of them are written, I'm sure yours is written very well, very easy to understand, all that. It's a question of getting people to read it and, care about it. And part of the strategy that I'm starting to consider is stop using cyber so much and instead start to say like digital privacy, digital protection, like use something that people will, like your average, you really got to put your shoes in your average person. If you say cyber, they're going to start to think about, Mr. Robot, hackers, anonymous, matrix stuff, right? So if you can say more like, you really want to protect your privacy, right? To protect your privacy, you need to protect your digital privacy. So you're kind of like looping them in with privacy, and then you're adding the digital component, and then you add something like your checklist, like here's 10 things to do to protect your, digital privacy. So I really think the content is there. There's a lot of great content and a lot of, very smart people working on the issue. The problem is how do we kind of jump that gap where if I tell someone, even the CyberLab website, right? It's really cool looking, but if I'm just kind of your average citizen and I'm going to look at it and be like, all right, this is for like the future hackers of America. It's not that accessible for someone like my mom. She's going to get overwhelmed. And those are the type of people we need to reach. We need to reach your average, average person and make them care. So again, I think the content is good. It's just how do we kind of communicate it? How do we make people care? And that goes back to what I was talking about with digital literacy is like you want to kind of pair these things together so they're not separate at all. I don't want to have a security component to my digital literacy program and a Web 101. I want it all to be baked in the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge point to make, and I was going to bring that up too. Is it seems like a lot of the difficulty is the coining of words, of the use of words that a lot of people like conceptually think of as like, oh, that's an enterprise issue, that's a business issue, that's not a personal issue. We don't have to deal with cybersecurity or information security. We just have to worry about being hacked, and like hack is a very personal word for a lot of people versus a security incident. So I think definitely the branding and the way that it's brought up, or if there's some kind of word that would help to be a more universal word that's not so much like a business term, it would be a huge thing.
Yeah. The way I almost look at it is we need like a public health model for cybersecurity. We need to look at it, like using the police model is not a good way to look at it. Like if there's a cyber crime or if one of you guys have an incident, like the police aren't going to show up and like go through your computer. You don't want that. They don't want to do that. I mean, yeah, maybe like if it's really bad, the FBI might come in and help you out in some way, right? But generally what, as Steve kind of pointed out, you want to just tell people good information and hopefully they, do it and nudge them to do it. And that's what public health does. You have anti-smoking campaigns. There's obviously direct things, especially right now, a lot going on. But generally speaking, for even COVID, what are we telling people? Like 3 same things, like wash your hands, wear a mask, stay away. Like you need that in the cyber realm too. You really need, good messaging. And I think our public health framework is really a good way to kind of look at it. Like how do people just live better digital lives? Public health is how to live a safer, healthy life, and then cybersecurity or digital protection, whatever you want to call it, is how to live a more like digital safe life.
Yeah, Alan, you were going to ask or say something?
Yeah, question. Thanks for the presentation, Chris. Really appreciate it. I'm in commercial insurance. Do you guys through the CyberLab share threat data and forensic data with the insurance companies?
Currently, we do not. So we don't have a whole lot of forensic. We don't have as much forensic data as more just general threat data. But I mean, more generally, I'm very interested in, how insurance companies, because insurance companies are going to be a huge component, maybe less for normal average person, the public, but for businesses, to kind of get people to, people are going to buy cyber insurance and you save money if if you're following maybe this framework, maybe you're just following, basic steps. So, I'm very interested in that conversation in general. But for the CyberLab right now, we don't have too much of a partnership with insurance agencies.
Okay. I mean, I think, depending on the charter and the direction you want to go, that might be valuable because, certainly one of the value adds that cyber insurers provide is the forensics that goes along with the aftermath of a particular event. And if you guys could, if they'd be willing to share that on kind of a, black out the names of the guilty basis, that data might be of value to you in what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And that would certainly be.
I mean,
yeah.
One of the things we're trying to go to regular companies to have them share data, right? Share information, but they either don't want to because it might be part of a proprietary project, like their threat data is their product and they're obviously going to share it for free and they don't want us to show it to other people. But then there's a shame, a business, gets compromised. They're not going to want to tell anyone if they really have to. So they're not going to like raise their hand and go to CyberLab or whoever and be like, hey, this is threat sharing information. But if you come at it from, I like what you're saying, you come at it from the insurance angle, because I'm an insurance company. I want people to join things like CyberLab and right?
Well, and that's one of the values that I talk to people about when I'm talking to them about cyber. And I agree, cyber is kind of a misnomer. I talk about hack and I talk about breach and I talk about privacy and the things that kind of scare people a little bit and things that hit home a little bit more. But a lot of the value in the insurance process is the underwriting and having businesses understand what the insurers are looking for in terms of proactive measures and training and things like that to keep these things from happening. So yeah, I think there might actually be kind of a fit there for what you guys are trying to do with data that the insurers collect.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're
just enormous in all of these ways. Yeah, Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
No, and I mean that's something I would definitely want to explore. My gut reaction to me going to an insurance company and being like, you want to share your information, would be like, no, we don't want to do that. But if they do, I'm more than happy to, find a way to do that. So, I mean, if you know people or, if you yourself are in a position of power to do something like that, I'd be more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm in a position of power, but we certainly have some key underwriting and wholesale partners that we write a lot of cyber with and that write cyber all over the country. I'll just pick up the phone and call a couple of them and say, hey, this is kind of what the CyberLab is doing. You think there'd be value in talking to these guys about sharing data?
Yeah, and I mean, you got to start somewhere. Like maybe, people aren't at the maturity level, or even they're still at that risk aversion, but you got to start somewhere. And I think that's because threat intelligence sharing, DHS, has had a lot of trouble with this too. Like, how do we get the private sector to share? How do we get people to kind of, take the information and, finding more of a carrot stick approach? And I think that would be a good way, a good carrot approach where you're like, if you sign up for these threat feeds and if you share into these threat feeds, we're going to give you a discount on your premium or whatever it is. Like, that's actual money people can save.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Di, you got any questions left? Go for it. We got time for one more. You get the last one. You're talking, you're muted.
There we go. There I am. Sorry about that.
There you are, right.
And you mentioned that when you work with the port and LAX, you get reports about, attacks that they get, right? Do they have an automated system set up with you that alerts you of attacks that they are getting, or is it something that they manually have to send you and tell you about the attacks?
I'm 99% sure it is automated. It's a pretty cool system. Again, that's more on the technical side. I'm a little removed from that. Like, I'll get a daily report of kind of the whole big picture of what the city's seeing. But in terms of the actual, sharing information, I believe it's pretty live action automated. Which is really good. And this was set up years ago. So this is kind of an award-winning, with that integrated security operations center is like an award-winning. A lot of cities will come in and look at what we've done. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I believe I'm 99% sure it's pretty live, automated.
Yeah. And what was that tool, Assassin something that you mentioned earlier?
Spam Assassin. I don't know
Spam
too much
Assassin?
about it, but I know this group of students kind of identified it as a good way to find, you actually read the email and looks for kind of clues, whether it be spelling mistakes, sense of urgency, stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. Because again, if you're just looking for IOCs, you're going to miss the actual text, which could be very obvious, spam email.
Right.
Yeah. I'll look forward to
Very
it.
helpful.
Yeah. Thanks, Di. So,
Very insightful.
yeah, Chris, again, let me just truthfully, we're grateful that you're able to be here and share with us today. I want to go on and talk about next month, which I think I should. Yep, there you are. You've heard Kenji. Kenji's on the line today, but Kenji's going to be speaking at our next meeting, September 22nd. He and I did a talk last week for a group that was, quote, formally in San Diego, but in reality was very virtual. Looking at the way clients and vendors, looking at that interface, that there's a win-win-win strategy there for both improved performance and security. So Kenji is going to be our guest next month, September 22nd, to look at that. Beyond that, we've got several other webinars coming up in the immediate future. The next one, actually, September 8th, I think is going to be fabulous. It's Mark Ambite, who's with USC, and Mark comes to us by Steve Grant. So Steve, thank you for this. But Mark is he's with the Annenberg Foundation, and he's going to be talking on disinformation, as he calls it, taming the tiger, how to detect, determine, and defeat disinformation. So that should be excellent, and it's totally non-technical. I mean, this goes to the election coming up and all the things about fake news and all of that. On September 10th, our monthly security management webinar, I've got Bob Zukas of the Digital Directors Network, and he'll be speaking on the great reboot. I mean, what's COVID doing just to things that might have taken 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 years to manifest from physical space to cyberspace have happened already. That's great danger and great opportunity always, and that's what Bob will be talking about. we're starting a new series for insurance brokers, and that we kick off September 15th. CISA, Darren McElroy will be speaking there. And then our financial services cybersecurity roundtable, we've got Sherry Davidoff speaking. That's September 25th. And she'll be speaking on secure Wi-Fi, secure work from home, and the remote office and things like that. So definitely you want to attend those. More generally, we Secure the Village, have a weekly newsletter. Somebody got some echo. Yeah. You want to sign up for that. It's available at securethevillage.org. We don't charge for it. It's free. We don't spam you, anything like that. And that's just one of the many things we do, including many of you saw and heard Steve Krantz. He's the author of Cyber Guardian, a Secure the Village guide for residents. And, connect with us on LinkedIn, get our newsletter, attend our events, also get support from our leadership council. There are people there, myself included, just always happy to help. Also have to tell you, I've published my first book. It's not technical at all. I started writing essays on freedom after 9/11, and this is a compendium of over 70 of them, most recently July 4th. And these are all about who we are as a people and how do we find common ground, even when we seem to be so separate from each other in today's political wars. So it's available on Kindle at a special introductory price. Don't run out all at once and buy it, but do think of it, please. And with that, I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. Both Bobby Kennedy said it in the political realm: the future is not a gift, it's an accomplishment. When we get past our cybercrime challenges and all the things we're talking about today, about the challenges of reaching people, helping people understand this stuff, what's that top 10 list, all of that, it's an accomplishment what we're all doing. I want to thank everybody who's here, who's a part of the village. Ultimately, all of you. Please invite your friends and neighbors for next month to hear Kenji. And here's contact information for all of us. Let's see. There's contact information, so you can reach out and find us. Chris's email and phone number there. Di is there as well. Any of your staffing needs. And of course, my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime at all on any of this stuff. As you can tell, I take cybersecurity somewhat personally that way. So grateful to all of you. Chris, thank you
Chris,
so much.
very helpful. Awesome.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
and if you guys have questions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Will do.
I rambled a little, but I'm hopefully it was useful.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Totally right. Steve is giving virtual hand class. So yeah. So thank you all, and I'll see you hopefully the next time, or certainly next month when we do the next happy hour. Be well,
Thank you,
everybody.
Chris. Thank you,
All right.
Stan.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Thank you.